And over the past few weeks, we've grieved together as the Black community has endured more senseless acts of racial terror and violence. At YouTube, we believe Black lives matter, and we all need to do more to dismantle systemic racism. We're committed to doing better as a platform to center and amplify Black voices and perspectives. And we're working to ensure Black users, artists, and creators can share their stories and be protected from hateful, white supremacist, and bullying content. We know there is much more work for all of us.
Out of the race for 2020, Joe Biden facing backlash for appearing to suggest most African Americans are uniform in their views. President Trump seizing on that comment, turning it into a new attack. The Biden campaign responding late today. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
It was a chance for Joe Biden to further his ties with the Black and Hispanic communities. But in a discussion over immigration, the former vice president seemed to suggest the Black community lacks diversity of thought.
What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
The president pounced.
Joe Biden this morning totally disparaged and insulted the Black community. What he said is incredible, and I don't know what's going on with him.
Biden's campaign insists he was not suggesting the Black community is a monolith, but rather was referring to diversity of attitudes among Latinos when it comes to immigration. Late today, Biden tried to clarify.
We can build a new administration that reflects the full diversity of our nation and the full diversity of Latino communities. Now, when I mean full diversity, unlike the African American community and many other communities, you're from everywhere. From Europe, from the tip of South America, all the way to our border in Mexico and in the Caribbean.
The president has a long history of racially charged and divisive remarks. Trump recently tweeting a video of a man shouting the racist phrase white power and calling Black Lives Matter a, quote, symbol of hate.
You feel, however, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide?
No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull the knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
Good afternoon. This is Rudolf from Germany. I am addressing today specifically Afro-American people. I might be probably the first white man, Aryan German man, who is admitting something to you. I took a long time to think about this video which I'm showing you, a very short one, about the white race. Many of you dark-skinned people, in America mainly, have had a suspicion for a very long time. White people are not really human. And this suspicion has been around for a long, long time. And like any suspicion which is around for a long, long time, there is a little bit of truth to it. I want to admit today to you that white people originating from Northern Europe are called not aliens, they are called Aryans. Sorry about that, my brain don't function so well today. These white people are not really human from this earth like black people are, Indian people are, Asian people are. Yes, they are all humans. We white people are actually a minority, and we are, let's face the truth, also called the tall whites. Not all of them are Not all of us are tall, not all of us are completely white, but in general, that's what it is. And as some of you may know, the tall whites are not really earthly human, but we're coming out of space, out of another galaxy. We are not human as the rest of the human race. We came here from another star, we white people, in order to control the world. We white people all have a secret code, a secret language under each other. We know, no matter how nice we pretend to be, we all stick together in order to control the other races, particularly the black race. And I am feeling so bad about it by now that I had to speak out here on this video and admit it. White people are not human. White people, including myself, all stick together, know the truth, which they do not want to admit to you. White people are out of space. We come from another galaxy. We all know our home planet, which we don't want to reveal because we don't want to be attacked. And we have no good intention with you. We do not want to share our wealth with you. We do not want to share our knowledge with you. You have been mistreated hundreds of years ago, and this is very, very bad. And your chances in life, to the most of you, many of you have no chance in life. You can sit and wait for work on a corner with your other friends, and work will never arrive to you. It's very, very hard, I know. And we rich people, we white people, we alien people don't want to share what we have with you, so you have a good time. This is my testimony in public. White people are from another planet.
Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News Report. Black Minds News is the report. Articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, website, or quotes from publications. As I articulate this information, the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that you call the United States, we, today's children and present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what the motto of my show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Today's date is August 7th, 2020, and welcome to another episode of Black Minds News. As you've seen there in the intro, seems like once again Joe Biden has had a fox paw, saying things that seem to always belittle the black community. We'll be touching upon that. Other stories as well. We'll probably go over to Trinidad and Tobago, where a story there about something to do with some chicken, how they were promoting that as a commercial. We're going to touch on the simple fact that Ted Cruz had the conversation, or maybe he had disagreements about something that Oprah Winfrey said, right? A lot of people have their feelings about Oprah Winfrey and all that good stuff, but we here are going to address the topic at hand about it, not so much as defending somebody. Once again, in the news is going to be talking about disqualifying immunity and how it must be abolished and some other things. So stay tuned as we get into this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing, everybody? Again, this is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my fam, my subscribers, my day ones, and some new subscribers. A couple, two, look like some of them fell off, but you know how they do. You'll subscribe, and then they'll come unsubscribe you because, again, you know, that's just what they do for those who work inside of the establishment that have their issues with the black corner. You know, a lot of things they do, they hide behind, and then they do their dirty work behind it. But anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you subscribers and new subscribers. Black Minds News take their hat off to you. Thank you for clicking on the button to come and view what we are doing over here. If you have not already, go ahead and hit that thumbnail, or not even a thumbnail, I guess you could say the subscribe button, hit that bell notification just in case. Make sure that you still to get the latest when we're dropping. So thank each and every one of you. Passerbys, if you happen to pass by, this is the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. You say, well, how can you say that? Well, we've been in the business since 2012. Just made an anniversary about a week or so ago. On our way to going 9 years in the business, but you couldn't tell based on the simple fact that somehow that this channel cannot get over 100, can't get 200 views. No matter if we post every day, it doesn't matter. Somehow we're being suppressed. Some people say shadow ban. This is beyond that. This is here is just blatant. You know why that is? We made a video back in April 1st of 2014. And that video would be considered viral in the black corner. And from that day, they realized, because again, at that time it was 300,000, 100,000, 20,000, 50,000, you name it, we was able to get it. But there's somebody decided that said, no, not this one. You know, he's not going to be the tool we want to use. So we've been suppressed, so we not really in it for that. But again, it is what it is. They showing their hand at their appointed time. Things will be addressed, so don't worry about that. Again, you can go down the aisle. We always got a grand opening over here. See some things. You may happen to see something that make you feel some kind of way. Remember that the motto of my show is, the truth don't need no partner. So, you know, as I set up the intro here, right, I always got a little theme for you. And in that theme, certain things is going to be how the show is going to go on that as like the foundation to where we're moving. So something came up as usual. You know, somebody always saying some things they probably shouldn't have said. And we just have to say, is it really just a slip of the tongue? Or is it just that when you get at a certain age, when you get that, I don't get no fuck ass attitude, I am what I am, that as much as I want to be politically correct, same things always keep to follow because, again, my true nature. Again, those who've seen the video, and I am, come on, Joe, you're going to blow it. Well, Joe seems to always be trying to backtrack, say some things to the black community, wants to backtrack and say, well, that's not exactly what I meant, what I said. Kind of like back in the days, those used to watch a Three's Company. You always catch in. Somebody would walk in on the, you know, suspect part of a conversation to get the wrong interpretation. Well, that's the way they feel like when we're looking at it. Somehow we're just only catching the bad part, but that's not really what it was intended for. So you just caught the wrong aspect of it. And so Biden claiming that he's apologizing for the comments that he made about racial diversity amongst black people. Now, again, I'm going to say it again, because Biden apologizing for comments on racial diversity among black people, right? And so, you know, it's funny how we as BADOS, Black American Descendants of Slaves of this land, And people say things that are really true to the heart, but because it's not politically correct in this day and era, and again, they're trying to change the game up for those who are new into the game and trying to make it seem like, well, those things that you may read about or you hear these people particular over here talking about, that was so long ago. These guys are just harping on the past, and this is not what it is in the present, even though it is being presented right before your face, right? So here you have a Democratic presidential nominee. His name is Joe Biden, right? And he, again, as I said, he suggests that African-American communities were not diverse, right? Think about that, not diverse. If anybody other than the people who are migrating here, because it seems like everybody seems to like, they think they know what it is to be BADOS in this land. And so they have this assumption of how they understand it. And then you have somebody who you would think know better, but obviously based on his wording seems to be out of touch, or just the truth of the matter that what he said, and then now he's kind of, trying to plug the holes up. But by saying that the African-American community is not diverse, did we as BADOS, based on our history, did we create the areas that we live in? That's the question one you got to ask yourself. Did we create those communities? Was these areas designed for us? It's kind of like the other day when they talked about a caste system, right? We are like the caste system, like in India, but here in the United States. A lot of people don't want to believe that, even though people who are supposed to be family of skin of kin come here and will always say, well, I don't understand why you guys, it seems like it's like a figure of your imagination. Why y'all keep holding on perpetual lies in the fact that you've been in this? Well, guess what? We are in the country that our subjugation has been in. If we were able to pick up and go somewhere else, and let's look at it like this. You know how like sometimes people relocate and then say if you are a child and you had to go to a new school. So everything that who you were, what they knew about you, where you left from, only those people of that area know who you are. When you relocate and go somewhere else, you can create a whole new identity. Let's say if you was a fuck person when you left from. But coming here, you get to get a new whole, they call it tabula rasa. Tabula rasa is when you write on the pad and, going to write the new script. It's not until later on where people will pick up those traits that you had, even though you left, that you thought nobody would ever be able to figure it out. Those things that are part of your characteristics that just keep falling out. And then everybody else be like, this motherfucker's a fuck nigga. Anyway, right? So saying these type of, words, painting this characterization on we as BADOS and suggesting that we are a monolith, right? But not by identity, he tried to, not by issue, and not at all, right? He tried to clean that up. Oh, in no way did I suggest that the African American is a monolith. Well, what did you mean when you said that African community was not diverse? See, everybody love to talk to try to correct us, but they do it in a revised way when they speak. Now, what do you mean by like history? You can have books that go back to the 1800s and see the truth at that time because they didn't have to worry about correcting. They just was, like I said, Joe, can I just be who I am? Right? They was just who they were. And so they wrote who they were. And so they didn't have to worry about you because they made it where it was not accessible and not too many were reading. So they didn't have to worry. So again, made it lawful. You can't read. So they were comfortable like that. But now that, technology, shows like Black Minds Lose and the Black Corner and so forth are all out here doing what they're doing. And so guess what happens? We get to have conversations about things that probably would be more in the confines of our home companies, places that we all convene. But now that what social media allows us to have a voice and people be flies on the walls and they'll come up and then they're listening to what are they talking about? What are they talking about, right? So to suggest that, again, as I say, selective on memory, selective of history, and revisionist kind of history, you take away the aspect of what created this so-called monolithic, as when you talk about black people. And I'll get more into that, right? So you got to remember that he was doing an interview with so-called black and Latino journalists, right? And this is when he came and said what he said. Unlike the black American community, the notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredible diverse community with incredible diverse attitudes about different things. Now, black journalists were there, but it was by, in front of really the audience and the organizations that was for the Latinos. So he's pandering to them, right? He's trying to pander to them. And so, not understanding that, again, you're trying to cape, as they say today, right? You're trying to cape for this particular people because you're trying to get them to somehow, you're trying to entice them that you will be the better candidate. So what you're trying to do is paint this thing that, we know there is a little difference between you and them, and that, you're kind of more like how America is, right? Remember when they were coming here and they was telling the Latinos that to say, okay, you're going to have to, you're going to have to assimilate. You're going to have to learn how to speak English like us. You're going to have to be, doing the things that are white. So we're going to go ahead on the census. We're going to go ahead and check the box. You're now going to be white like us. So again, so the problem issue seems to me is that black folks don't want to assimilate, right? You don't want to assimilate. You're trying to be steadfast and being this, this Negro, this black person. And, don't you understand that we're not respecting that? And but we're like, well, again, as Joe wants to be, I want to be who I am. Well, what's wrong with us being who we are? Just because you deem and stamp your so-called USDA on the beef and make it say that it's approvable, that don't mean we have to accept that. Just because you deemed it to be certified don't mean that we're going to approve because your certification is on it, right? And so he done forgot that it was black folks in South Carolina that revitalized his dead ass. Let me say that again. He forgot that it was in black South Carolina voters when he went and got Clyburn to rally the Patriots and get them in and get them to vote for him, right? And that would revitalize and got him to the position he's in right now. But he done bit the hand that got him in this position more than once. If you're not black, you don't vote for me. You're not black, right? All these things are considered slips that, again, Three's Company kind of, you caught the back end and it's kind of like you were Mr. Roper and you caught the back end and that's not what you interpret it. It's not. You got to watch the whole rest of the show then find out that you were wrong. Bullshit. Anyway, so he tried to clean it up. And he says that, well, what I meant by in the diversity was not so much as, I mean about your politics, right? Your political views, right? Now, he was speaking in front of the National Association of Latinos Elected and the Appointed Officials Conference. Now, he's in front of them, okay? Now, he promised them, right? He made a promise to them that his administration would reflect the full diversity of the Latino community. See? But in the black corner, we have been talking about tangibles. We're talking about reparations. We're talking about reform. We're talking about a whole lot of things. So when you talk about this thing about monolith, what I'll talk about a little later on, when you're making us monolithic, you're talking about that we're steadfast and we won't change off of what we're trying to hold as maybe the only time in the modern history that black people is trying to use the power of the vote and not just get a chicken damn dinner and allow somebody to just get something in exchange for nothing. We try to play the game like everybody else playing the game of quid pro quo. And you're saying, why don't you Be diverse in this. Now I'm going to break that down to what they really trying to say here, right? Because he's trying to explain that full diversity and what he meant by that, right? And according to what he said when he cleaned it up, he said, well, matter of fact, it wasn't even him. He had his advisors come out. And the advisors came out and it was like, well, you know, he was like, unlike the African American community and many other communities, you know, the Latinos are from everywhere, from Europe, from tip of South America. They're on the borders of Mexico, the Caribbean islands, right? They have backgrounds of different ethnicities and they all identify as Latinos. Now, wait a minute. Now, when you say African American, there's some descent that means that we are part of the Africans, the continent, the people, the bloodline, correct? Am I wrong by saying that? Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong in that, right? So all the things that you just was saying as into, like, when you talk about the Latinos saying that they're from Europe, aren't black people not from Europe, been in Europe? Matter of fact, was there probably before you was in Europe? We're not in South America. We're not in Mexico. We're not in the Caribbeans. Are we having different languages and cultures, but the only difference about we is BADOS in here, we've been stripped of everything that give us our own soul identity. So when you say that you try to say that we're monolith and we're not trying to change what? Isn't it said that who we were when we first got here, that you stripped the Negro, you stripped the Negro down, and they said, and again, the Negro meaning dead, because you stripped him of his language, you stripped him of his culture, you stripped him of everything of him, and you created the nigger. Now here it is, your creation that you don't like, because some odd reason it still has a mustard seed of still trying to be who it is and what it was created to be. It's not willing to change up who is everybody else who tries to assimilate to be you. They're steadfast in trying to become themselves and more than that. So what you're doing is you're selling the idea to other people that black people are going to just kind of stick onto this whole thing about what they're talking about. They don't want to be diverse. They don't want to be diverse. And then he tried to say, well, what I meant by diversity, I was talking about, and through my career, I witnessed the diversity of thought. Now, he said the diversity of thought. Now, I'm going to take these little terms that he's talking about, and I'm going to break them down to give you a better understanding, just in case for somebody who may not understand this, right? And so he talking about the background, the sentiment within the African American communities in this diversity that makes our workplace, communities, and country a better place. So he's just double speaking. He said one thing, now he's saying something else. And that he said that now he promised them when he spoke to them, but he said, we'll always listen to you. Wait a minute. Promise and listening. Is that two different things? If I promise to listen to you, don't mean I'm not promising you anything. I'm just hearing what you're saying. But when I promise you, there's something that in exchange of that promise that you made that I'm holding you to. So why is it that you good for us to listen to our gripes, to listen to our plight, to listen to what our needs and what we talk about intangibles, but that's about as far as it goes. You'll say you'll never stop fighting for the African community. What have you done? Because if we look at the history and talk about the crime bill and things like that, you've done enough damage to the black community, have you not? You'll never stop fighting for a more equitable future. What are you talking about? Where does it show? Everybody loves to say, I did so much for the black community. I've done a lot for the black community. But where are we to look to find that at? Huh? Where are we to find all this at? So that's what they like saying, right? So again, let's just break them terms down, this monolithic thing, right? Now monolithic, they say kind of like going back to like a one stone, right? And they use it when they describe something societal. when they talk about like religion and organizations. And we all know that those who come to understand that this have a negative connotation to it, right? You're saying this and it has a bad way that you're describing this, and that when you think of it from a rigid aspect, you're trying to say that we're not open to new ideas. It's because they want us to be the white black person. Let me say that again. They want you to be a white black person. Again, there's a book, The Golden Stool, when the missionaries was in there, and they talk about the black person would not be acceptable to white people until you become a black white person. So that means that as long as you try to hold on into this steadfastness and try to hold us accountable for what had took place, we're never going to be right with y'all. We're never going to have a tight-knit relationship. We're going to always be at odds because you're trying to hold us for something. Many of us today are going to say we had nothing to do with it, even though the perpetuation of what had been done and continues to still be done. What real change? But you're fighting for us. The only one's going to fight for ourselves is us. We ain't depending on nobody else. And that's the problem here. You created this dynamic. You the one that decided the great idea of this nation was to bring everybody from everywhere else to undermine us, that it would be easier for you to make profit and not pay and all this other stuff than deal with those who you had already here, who were already the greatest workers on the damn planet. Already the greatest workers on the builders, workers, you name it, you already had them. So why would you have to go, here it is, you got the top of the line and you out here looking for stragglers. It's kind of like back in the days when they were talking about the NFL, when the NFL would go on strike, and then they were talking about trying to get these replacement players, and they called them scabs, right? They would go get the scab players, right? So you would get the scabs who would cross the damn line, not in solidarity with the union players, but these scab players that would come across the damn line. Right? And so that's what kind of like what immigration is. Immigration is kind of like the scab players. Here's a fight, the ones on the line fighting for the union, talking about, hey, conditions, pay ain't right, and then you go get these motherfuckers to undermine us. And then you kept filling that up and kept filling it up and kept filling it up. And now, after all this time that we've been here, you feel like, you know what? You guys need to be more diverse in your thought. You need to be thinking about other people other than yourself, right? You need to figure a way that, that this organization, this system that you blacks are keep doing this, you're being very, your large group, you're being very slow about how to change. Why do we need to change when everything about our existence in this country has been about keeping us as one, nothing but a consumer nation, will be nothing but just your tools, will be nothing but your tabula rasa. You could write it the way you want it, and we had to follow according to the way you want it, and that's cool with you. But anybody who wants to be themselves is always, you're at odds with them. So is that a character flaw in us, or is that a reflection in yourself? And that's what you got to ask yourself. Is that something that's in you? Because that can't be about us. But that's the way everybody want to, sell that off. So basically what they're trying to say is, okay, what is the opposite of being a monolithic? Polylistic, right? Polylistic, right? And so something that is composed of several or even many stones in this case, right? They try to say, well, okay, you guys, why don't you be, be more diverse in your culture, right? Here you are as a broad group, right? Let's look at the Native Americans. They were polylistic, right? Each of them had their tribes, they had their own culture, their language. And so guess what? The difference between the Native Americans when you talk about African Americans. African Americans weren't able to be no tribe. Matter of fact, let me take that back. We are a tribe. We are trying to reclaim and call ourselves according to who we want to be named, according to how we see it. Not by people who sit here trying to tell us that, you know what? Black can't be that because black is not something about land and all this nonsense. Why do he gets to get the stamp and go around the damn world stamping and saying that everybody has to be named according to where he's going to accept it? Why can't you be self-sufficient and separate on your own? He's not going to say that. He has to feel like somehow that whole shit about that damn, what is that? Manifest destiny ass bullshit. Well, that's how he thinks, right? So it has to be how he looks at the weather. So you talking about culture. Now, only thing we don't have our own culture. We created the culture, but we don't get to own it. We don't get to control it, right? But it's kind of like when you talk about American culture, what other culture is there? These people don't come with nothing. Again, they said that there was a world picnic and everybody had to come to the damn picnic. These mugs will only bring a damn appetite. That was all they bring, a damn appetite. The rest of that shit, everybody else bringing. You ain't got nothing to bring to the damn table. Talking about language, when you stripped us of our damn language. What language? We got to speak English. And then you get mad and talk about, well, they speaking Ebonics and all this. Well, this ain't my natural tongue. But then you complain about that. Social structure. What social structure? You done construct this whole game, what you call about race and everything. What y'all talking about? See, we got to realize this some people just damn crazy. And that's what we've been living under, craziness. And we supposed to conform to craziness. Instead of us saying, we ain't trying to be that, we trying to be. But no, if you don't conform to that, then, you know what I'm saying, you're being hard. You're being non-compliant. You're being, you know what I'm saying? So when you're even talking about these diversity, there's 4 types. When you're talking about occupation, there's difference in skills, there's abilities, there's personal traits, values, and attitudes. Occupation, well, guess what? We got to come to you to get a job based on the history and where we had to come out, where we trying to find out. I mean, yes, we have had some people who had and became bosses and stuff. But when we talk about this wealth gap, you see the difference between it and you realize, you know what? They ain't gonna never catch up, right? Look at the difference between. That's what one of the issues of right now that's going on. And because we want to be monolithic and stick onto that topic, everybody got a problem with it, right? Difference in skills. Well, guess what? If you could not suppress and keep the Black Americans from really of their full potential of the God-given gifts, you would not want to see what our real skills is and abilities. Our personal traits. Well, damn it. We've been subjugated, beat, raped, you name it. So our personal traits of the things that you do like is when we can entertain you. We may make you feel good and feel like, you know, we just having a good time and you enjoying my God gift and whatever, I'm running the ball or dunking the ball or whatever it might be, dancing and singing and being funny. Oh, that's fine. But don't try to be in what you say in competition with you. Then now I got a problem with you. Value, only you get the deemed of value. Because see, we may see ourselves in a high esteem when it comes to value, but you are the one that's kind of like, when you look at the stock market go up and down based on somebody behind this curtain like the Wizard of Oz, and they the one to say what is the value of everything. You don't know who that is, but they the one to tell you, and then you got to sit there and watch the ticker go across, and they tell you whether your stock went up or down. So you're controlling the value, right? It's kind of like, say, for instance, when you go into a job for an interview. You come in there, like, again, when you ain't had a job and you just sitting there, you say, man, I need to, you know what I'm saying, let's say $13 to $15. I think that'll be sufficient for me to sit down. Now, again, here you are. You coming and contemplating 13 to 15. You saying that. You wrote that on the paper, right? You wrote that on your application, right? So, but you didn't know that the job pays $21 to $25. You done already undercut yourself. Because when a white person came in there, they on their resume already said, I'm taking $80,000 and nothing less. And guess what? They'll get the goddamn job. And you're going to make the difference because they're going to underball cut you when you're getting your money. Check. And our attitude. Why attitude would be, hey, you damn right. If you going through what we going through, you think you ain't got a right to have that damn attitude when the game been rigged against you? And then if you say anything about it that they're deeming you wrong, but the best way to go along is to get along with it, you damn right you gonna have that. So when they talk about this political diversity, basically in a nutshell, it's a system that is fulfills the political interests of all parties. So what they want us to do from a political diversity mentality is look at the best interests for everybody. This melting pot. Yes, we've been beat the fuck down. We've been subjugated, red line, you name it. We've been did it. Everybody else who was in the same place of the plantation companies from where they came from got a reprieve and they come on our plantation and then be amongst us and still get better treatment, still get more there. And then you sitting at us that now that we're trying to say, okay, is this how the game play, boss? Is this how the game gonna play? Oh, so what we do is we get a block of our people, and then we're going to come collectively and we'll say, okay, you want us to vote for you? Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, we need horse and buggy, and we need a plant. We need, let's say we need a factory of sugar. Is that good enough for us, Marsha? Now that we're doing that, oh no. Why aren't you thinking about everybody else? Why you guys are only thinking of yourself? Because we ain't never got of this so-called American pie. When have we ever got a real slice of the pie? Everybody can come here, and there's a lot of people who undermine, who use our identity. They will use our identity. They ain't gonna never tell us they're using our identity to get a lot of the money underhandedly that we were not getting. And they've been surviving on that. You using that as the decoy, well, I ain't gonna say decoy, as the ploy that brings them flooding in here. The money we should have been getting. Looking at saying this, when you talk about this census, and to say that we've been in the same damn position for how many years? We've been talking about 12, 13%. As black people are not growing. And the people who came here after us, now you telling us it's more of them than it is us. And they say, well, because you guys are killing yourself. We still having more babies for everybody that we killing. We making so many damn babies that you even go to the Planned Parenthood and you would still put the sisters at the face of those who dying in the Planned Parenthood. When the truth of the matter is, it is your women who giving up way more babies than our baby. But you won't put the face of ours in there though, right? That's the game they playing here, y'all. That's how they do it. Okay? And so this idea that diversity is valuable and desirable because it's recognizing and promoting these diverse cultures. Aiding community between the different backgrounds and lifestyle, leading to greater knowledge and understanding and peace coexistence. So we have to always take the cow-tie position, because if we was to take this poll, you know how they talk about reparations? The last poll that they talk about with reparations went back so far back. And when they looked at that damn poll, do you know that a lot of the immigrants was like, they was not trying to give us reparations? So what would happen if you did a modern poll today and you had to ask the immigrants, and I don't try to make this about no black immigrants and white immigrants. I put you all in the same damn category. And when you do that damn, I bet you're going to come back. Y'all ain't down for us to get nothing. Y'all act like when y'all come here that y'all somehow you don't owe nothing to the people who built a refuge for you to come to. But somehow, Master trying to make us feel guilty because that we don't want to sit here and try to divide and make sure that you've been living good. When we gonna get some of the damn, When we gonna get our cut? Nobody wants us to say that. Everybody want to act as if like, no, you guys, you're the diversity of thought, right? And here he says, that's why he contradicted himself. He said, well, I've been around black people. I've seen their diversity of thought. Now, what he's saying is the idea that people in a group don't need to look different. That black people feel like you don't need. See, we are the ones that got this love everybody mentality. So how do you say that we are not a diverse people? Not in our communities is because the way that we've been structured by the system to put us over in the damn corner. But when it comes to the mentality of everybody, we got a seat for everybody. We'll protect people when they damn wrong, and you'll see our people in the midst of that trying to protect them people when they dead damn wrong. So we have been already conditioned in that mentality, and even you saying that we do that. We identify in the underrepresented groups in order to bring varying diverse viewpoints to the table. We don't have a problem. Haven't we been saying, you had a lot of people, the Browns, we was included everybody, but don't nobody else include us in their conversation. Let me say that again. Don't other people don't ever put us in their mouths. You don't ever hear. Show me where other people from other ethnicities put black people in their mouth other than when they're in some damn situation where their ass ain't getting shit or in a terrible situation that they need us for the support. That's the only time. But when it's time to get some shit, do not advocate for us. Now, all this shit that you're seeing right now, when you're talking about everybody talking about something out here protesting, you think we ain't thinking that y'all got some kind of undermined agenda or trying to use this to say that you participated? And so that's why you're seeing people that saying that they've been here so long, that they've been discriminated, and when they start to cut some money, they entitled because you've been discriminated against. Take your ass down there to the goddamn, to the federal court and file you an EEOC claim. That's how you get that money. But when it comes to cutting this damn check, when it comes to damn reparations, sit your ass down. Y'all sit y'all ass down. Huh? Sit y'all ass down with that bullshit. Right? So they don't want us to have, they trying to make us avoid, don't have a group think. Don't be monolithic as black people who are just all about this and talking about this history and talking about this reparation. That'll make you have to overcome this subjective overconfidence about that. Look at the bigger group. The other people they're not gonna support you. Why do we need them to validate a claim that even you know that is valid? But that's that buffer. That's to keep them, to have us at odds, to keep us from gaining and getting. That's just what the game is, y'all. Ain't no need to talk no more, but that's what he was saying. That's exactly what this cat was sitting here saying. That's what he's saying. So you're trying to make this difference between the two. Ain't no difference between the two. The difference is we done put in more work. Time, sweat, blood, and tear. And nobody wants to recognize it. Everybody feel like, ain't you ate enough? Didn't you steal enough? Ain't you took enough? You ain't gonna be happy till we don't exist. Then y'all be like, everything good now. Let me say that again. Y'all done took enough. You done stole enough. And you basically, what y'all think, we don't think. And I know most people won't say this, but I'm gonna say it. In the back of y'all damn minds, y'all really waiting for us to die the fuck off. Then y'all gonna be satisfied, right? Now you're satisfied. Oh, they gone now. Now we be the new masters. We don't have a problem because it was better than where we left from. Have you noticed more people trying to sell us that don't be from here, trying to get us to go somewhere else and get, like Smokey Robinson said, he said, why so few people leaving and so many people coming? But everybody telling us it's better somewhere else. Matter of fact, while we on the thought of this, and again, this is no shot. This is not the downgrade. This is just what facts is. Go look if you think I'm lying. People are talking about Marcus Garvey coming here, right? Now, again, for his talent, gifts, and all that, he was great. He's a great man, right? But he couldn't do what he wanted to do in his own land. Because why? Why he couldn't do it? He left there in 1916, came here to the United States, stayed here for 11 years. Was that 1927? He got deported out of this country, right? Why didn't he go back to Jamaica? You know why? Because y'all was being colonized at that damn time. Y'all had that shit going on until what, 1962? So here's how people coming from Jamaica, coming over here, talking about us here, and yet the greatest one that y'all claim that y'all want to use over here, why he didn't go to the continent? Because what was going on in the continent? The same shit. So he went to England, right? But y'all always kind of sell us this bill of goods. Go over there. It's great over there. You think they just coming out of the 65? And they just get independence. That don't mean the mindset and what the colonization done did to them. So everybody want to run and just talk about resources and all. Man, it's bigger than that. Look what we've gone through here, and we've been there for 400 years, and what we're trying to do, and guess what? We can't establish ourselves is because everybody else trying to come in. Again, the greatest analogy that you ever want to understand where I'm coming from, go back and watch The Matrix. In The Matrix, when Neo was fighting all them damn agents, That's like what we fighting here. We fighting every motherfucker here trying to get ourselves established to get something, and the fight won't stop. Even Neo couldn't take it, and he had to fly up out of there. Huh? I ain't gonna say no more. Let me show you something here. Check this out. Oh yeah, it's Friday, right? It is what it is, right? We just got to tell like a TI is. Now, let me show you something about this. And again, this ain't about diversity. This is just the facts. See, everybody want to try to play this game like, okay, we understand why the conditions, what's going on here and what you're going in. Why don't we just leave? Wait a minute. You're talking about the people who've been here for hundreds of years. This ain't new to us. This only new to people who always running. That's why you don't know nothing, because you always running. But then you done got a little comfortable somewhere, done made a little something, and all of a sudden now, you think you got the game packed, and you trying to talk to the people who done been through everything that this country, everything. This ain't the first time we done been through a damn pandemic. This ain't the first time you done trying to inoculate and put shit in us. Now for you, that might be new. That ain't new to us. So that's what's funny how everybody trying to tell us and we just looking at you. Like, well, anyway. So let me show you something. Now, you know, black folks, we love some chicken. White folks love chicken too. Don't get that shit twisted. They love chicken too. Who don't love chicken? Now, again, we ain't talking about all this chlorinated chicken that they got today. All this shit and been done put under some damn, you know, they chlorinating the chicken, they nuking the damn chicken to try to make it have a longer life and all that. But so I seen this here the other day. Let me show y'all this. Oh, should I take a break? Let me take a break. Let me take a quick break. I'll come back right after. Let's do this break right quick. Hold on. Your screen there, we black. And you see on your screen there, right? You see that on your screen there, right? KFC's Black Power Deep Fried Chicken. Advert receives criticism for racism. Let me say that again. KFC's Black Power Deep Fried Chicken advertisement receives criticism for racism. Right? Now look at that there. Now again, now that you know, get you some dipping sauce right there. You finna tear that off. Who wouldn't? Especially when you've been, you know, Americanized and we eat a lot of this fast food. Those again done dropped that and became vegan and all the healthy good stuff. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But once in a while you like a piece of good fried chicken. Who don't? You know, they all try to watermelon and chicken black thing like you ain't never seen a white person eat no damn watermelon, no chicken. Oh, some crazy, anything to throw a damn stereotype. But anyway, here it was that KFC, somebody in the damn advertisement department, and I'm pretty sure it was probably some of the tokens that worked there, right? Matter of fact, what comes to mind, what was the name of that movie? The Drop Squad. Anybody ever seen the movie The Drop Squad? Remember when they had that brother in there? What was that brother name? The one that was Lisa McDowell's in Coming to America. Remember he was with Soul Glow and he was going to marry Lisa McDowell with that cat, right? Remember? But he was in the other movie that I was talking about. And he worked in the advertisement company, right? They had to come up with this slogan. Remember those little bougie niggas that worked in the damn in that little department. And they had to come up and sell this slogan about this damn beer. And he came up with it, right? But when he came around his family and stuff, he probably did this big time advertisement. But look what the kind of shit he was doing. Well, that's probably what the motherfucker that was that did this shit right here, right? So look at that shit in the background. So the chicken, right? As for Happy Emancipation Day, the chicken and then the image that you see is supposed to be casted, its reflection is the Black Power fist. Huh? Somebody thought that was a good day and talking about Happy Emancipation Day. Now again, we just been talking about this emancipation and what emancipation really is nothing but a ceremonial, right? Just an expression. It ain't law. It ain't passed by no Congress. It's just an announcement, right? Make you feel like something. I see again playing with your head, playing head games with you, telling you things that you don't believe. What Stevie Wonder said, superstitions still get in the way. So here it is, and again, you would think that this here, right, is in where? Some people I seen were doing it. They were making it seem like this was here in the United States. You know damn well this would have not gone through here. Now, they do a lot of little subliminal stuff. That ain't no lie. They will try to sneak some shit off if they can get it off, right? But you know damn well, once you'd have seen that commercial, the flood would have went on, and guess what? KFC probably be out of business. You know what I'm saying? KFC would be out of business. But this here just happened to be, let me show you this here, right? So here it is. It's Emancipation Day post at KFC Trinidad. We always strive to recognize our nation's multicultural history and makeup to play our part in recognizing it. Now, this is the PR people, right? This is what we're going to do, right? Our intention was to support and recognize the importance of this historical, significant event. We recognize that our post commemorating Emancipation Day drew some negative responses. Clearly, we got it wrong. We want to unreservedly apologize for the offense caused. As a result, we are reviewing the approval process of all of our communication to avoid situations like this reoccurring. You done already got the shit off, right? You know, they do that shit all the time. They'll do some fuck shit, throw the shit out there, just like they did the little boy, was it the monkey, the coolest monkey in the jungle, and all, you know, little purses that got monkeys in the wind, right? All that, and then come back, we apologize. They don't know who was that who did this. No, they got it off. They got the joke off. All the people who got to see it, the white people, they sitting around and laughing and joking. Yeah, a fist in the back of the ground, huh? Right? Now, again, that didn't happen here in the United States. Happened in Trinidad. Now, the thing is, what I want to talk about here about this is this. As Joe Biden was sitting there talking about how in the Caribbeans and everything, he was giving, adulations to ethnicity people. And again, I'm not here divisive, right? I'm here as news. I'm just going to tell it to you like a TI is. Again, I'm BADOS of this land. So, we see things in a way from our perspective, and we don't really have the platforms. But now that we're trying to make this black media, some of y'all not just not going to like. And again, you do everything to suppress. Now you understand why I am the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. Because those who have noticed, you see we're going on an upcline of how we've been doing it. Right? But anyway. So, this is Trinidad and Tobago, right? And when we think about these places, there is a dynamic in that country, in those lands, in those islands, that they have color issues, right? And that is what white supremacy, white colonialism, white imperialism have done around the globe to many people with melanated skin, Africans, as they want to say, around the globe, is they take your mind, wring it, and infuse their ideology upon you that white is great, white is better, white, right? And so after a while, your defense mechanism breaks down. In order to acquiesce to get in, to feel like you're going to get some kind of favor. So you say, well, let me try it. So I happen people think that the more education, the more they can stress their S's and T's and more proper talking and all that come, right? And then what ended up happening? You lose yourself. So you'll have some people who you'll look at, like say if you go to South America, people can be as black as the word black. And yet they don't consider themselves to be black because of the ancestry that they can find as some whites in the tree. And then that white there that makes them say that they're not black or they're not African and so forth. Well, a lot of people from a lot of places come here and say that about us, that we're trying to be the white man. No, we're just trying to be who we are in this land. We don't want to be programmed in this land. If I was to go to the land and be with you and see how you were I would be able to pick out and say the sickness that is amongst you. So you come amongst us and you see the sickness amongst us, and then that's what your talking points be. But you come from a really outside, like, you know, you're window shopping. You only hypothesizing what it would be like to put that on and wear it. So from your lack thereof true understanding, you come with an understanding that misses the mark. So again, this can be done there is because why? And, you know, it was probably no big ruckus about it in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not saying that they don't have black people who are black and full of pride. I'm not saying that at all. But they do got colorism there. And you have a lot of people there who, remember the show I did maybe last month or so? When the young man was having a conversation with his grandfather. And he was talking about how, you know, in their family, the Africans, and then he was talking about in his life and how he was talking to him, calling him Latrice Lumumba and all this, and his family was calling him Monkey, and it was all about being about white, right? But he said he still tried to keep his pride, but then, you know, some things fell out in the conversation. The young man saying he always considered himself to be white, even though he felt he knew he was African. But that's because of what colonialism and white colorism does to the mind of black people. So obviously they felt like they could get away and do what they did there in Tobago. Because again, you have a lot of people who come there that might think they kind of a Chinese, a little Indian, or maybe a little white, but you know, just the way they make that caste system there, they did divide and conquer. They made the lighter better and the more darker the worse, lazy, shiftless, not wanting something. And so what it does is it breeds this hatred about people being black. And that's all over the globe. No matter where you go, it's the same old songs. All around the world, same song. And so because some of us will sit here and continue to talk about it, they say that we're race baiting, we're race hating. Well, we're just telling the facts to the issue. And again, I don't understand why you would feel guilty if you could say that slavery had nothing to do with it. But then if we're talking about the perpetual, continual illness that follows, even though that has long passed, why do you feel like, you know, you feel some kind of way about it, right? And so when you think about the seeds of color complex, what they plant during slavery, you know, they did that light-skinned slave captives. And they would always make those who were light as domestics, right? Think about that. They make you the domestic and they put the dark skins in the field, right? So in that in itself, unbeknownst to, let's say, the individuals, because let's say if they're young, but somewhere you pick up certain things as you see the patterns. You say, wait a minute. So like everybody who is like this be in the house and everybody who out here be in the field, right? And so even when they talk about when they put our ancestors on them slave blocks, right? Now those who had that, what you would consider mixed ancestry, right? Who had that light skin tone, why they got highest bids? Why did they get more money for them? At least that's what they say in Trinidad and Tobago. Right? I don't say that here in the United States. I think it's more about being a buck. But then it's because, according to what they say, and that is some research I had did with them, right? And so they would make that contact with those white planters. And because of this white skin they got, they were more like, say, they would get exposed to, let's say, around Massa, so you learn how to talk like Massa. You look at the dress and etiquettes of Massa. So that puts you in a sense, what you understood from being around them, different from those in the field. So it made you feel a little like you're a little uppity, like you knew some things, you heard some conversations, you ate certain foods, right? And so what they say is during those colonial days, persons of African and European ancestry were designed as colored, right? That's where they came with that term. And so what they did is they produced colored middle class, West Indian social order. And so the color population was somewhere between the upper and lower class. The mix of the color people, they did not really do the bridge of the social gap between the upper and the lower class. But in the middle class, they were treated as they were neatly competent. So what happened is, based on them being with this so-called class and upper, middle, lower class, because of their skin texture, and again, their being around massa and their diction would be good. So they would be a little bit more high sedity status-wise, right? Look at this game they've been doing to us, man. You know damn well why we sick. I know everybody don't want to talk about this because we're 2020. It's 2020. You don't know what year it really is, because you got to ask yourself, if people want to say that we as BADOS and the families of Africans been on the planet, how is this only 2020? When did we start counting 1 to 2020? Is that when the world began? So who decided to say we're going to count backwards, and then from that, now we're going to go forward? I mean, who decided that? If we're going to talk about you finding people Lucy and talking about millions, really, they didn't count time. They had it in Egypt. They had it in the Mayans and the Incas and the Aztecs. They had, so how are we at 2020? We don't know what time it is. Time for somebody else so he can control. So he made what? He made antiquity of history. That ain't got nothing to do with now with this modern from 500 AD forward, right? Anyway. So what I'm saying here about this whole thing is this. There might have been mixed feelings about seeing the image of the chicken in the fist, right? Everybody may not have been offended with that. Because again, where it was at. I'm not saying everybody was and wasn't. But I know damn well if that had happened here, KFC would be its ass out of business. You couldn't get no kind of 2-piece and biscuit, no potato wedge fries. None of that would be over with, right? But, you know, Emancipation Day. They got Emancipation Day, which again is all fluff. Ain't no real emancipation because there was nothing but just an announcement. If it ain't put in the laws, as we've been talking about, and we will continue to talk about with this Dred Scott case, and all of it is just to play with your mind and to keep playing the game. That's all it is, right? That's just all it is. So that's what that is, right? Yeah, that's how it goes, y'all. Let's show you how deep this shit is, right? Let's see how deep this is. I'm gonna put that back over there. All right, I think you got this mix. Yeah, you did it wrong. There you go. All right, so let me show you this. I've seen this too. Everybody been pretty much talking about it. And I guess there's different ways to look at this, right? There's different ways to look at this. Because one particular person, he's saying what he's saying because he was in opposition to what this other person had done. And this other person, as being a BADOS person, has fell out of the grace with BADOS because looking in hindsight over her career, some of the stances, some of the things, and going also with her friend and all that other stuff. So now that it seems to be the season, or it's the trending topic, it's the trending thing to do, a lot of people seem to be out here advocating like, where you been? We ain't seen you nowhere. All of a sudden everybody coming out. So again, we don't have no patent. Again, when you cut from the cloth, you cut from the cloth. You come and you do according to what your spirit feels to do. So we can't say whether somebody can't advocate or not. We can't do that. But I thought what was interesting in this is the fact that to say that when somebody says that white privilege is just bullshit, racist bullshit, then I have to say, okay, let's say who's saying it, and then let's look a little bit at who this is, and let's dig in a little bit, and let's say, you say that, but then let's look. So check this out. Now listen to what he says, and then we'll be right back. Check this out. Ready? Hit it.
I'm Cuban American, and white supremacists hate me too. But at the same time, it's fairly striking that elected Democrats want to ignore the violence of Antifa. They want to ignore the violence on the left, and they just scream white supremacists, rather than condemn violence from wherever it is coming. The 277 injuries of federal law enforcement officers in Portland are coming from the left, and not a single Democrat on this committee acknowledges that. David Dorn, African-American police officer, was murdered. Retired police officer in St. Louis, who is black, was murdered. Not a single one of the 7 Democratic senators who spoke at this hearing mentioned David Dorn's name. Patrick Underwood, another officer. Senator Durbin was the one Democrat who mentioned Patrick Underwood's name. Another black officer murdered. We see Democrats who repeat the slogan, Black Lives Matter, but apparently those black lives are not worth discussing. The black lives of police officers murdered by terrorists.
Black, right? So Ted Cruz condemns OPRAH comments on white privilege. Utter racist bullshit. Let me say that again. Ted Cruz condemns OPRAH's comments on white supremacy or white privilege. Utters racist bullshit, right? So Ted Cruz, right? Everybody kind of know about Ted Cruz, right? But as you heard in that video there, Ted Cruz said something that you may have not known. He said he's a Cuban American, right? Cuban being first, right? And so keep that in mind. And then he said white supremacy hate him too, right? Now take that as a marked note, right? Did you not hear him say that? Did you not hear him say that? So he did say that, right? So we see that he condemned the comments that, what you know, they call her a media mogul, Oprah Winfrey, she made about white privilege. And talking about how it's succeeding as a person of color, right? And so he remarks with that by again saying that her points were utter racist bullshit, right? Anytime that we as black people try to state what the facts are to the existence that we as BADOS in this land, if anybody understands this country, who know it better than we do, right? Because what you normally see is people who try to defend, right? We see people who are some kind of not really cut from their cloth. It'd be some kind of subsidiary or somebody who is trying to get in and fit in, right? So they feel like this is an easy target. Let me go ahead and jump in, right? So he says that a billionaire Oprah lectures the rest of us, right? Right? Now, what is it that in white folks feel like just because you got money makes racism don't exist because you got money, right? Why they feel like this? Because, you know, they'll be like, what the athletes, well, you guys, you make all this money, you live in different neighborhoods, but what does that got to do with racism? Do all their family live with them? Have they not come out of conditions prior before? Have they still go through things even though they do, and then when they find out who they are, we done seen, what was that NBA player that they broke his leg? Like the police had broke his leg, right? What about the one that brother, the Dallas Cowboy, the one that they did with the gun? They snuffed all that out, right? Because again, they don't want to perpetuate that image that you are somehow different from those who are down the low caste. You make money now, so racism don't apply to you, even though they still go through situations where racism or discrimination always happens, right? It's because of their high profile, their notoriety, right, that sometimes can get them out of situations because people kind of know who they are and it gives them a pass. It's kind of like that conversation when you go back to Do the Right Thing, when Spike Lee is having that conversation with the Sal, was it Sal or the son of Sal at the pizza? Who's your favorite player? Bruce. And he was talking about Prince. And he was like, hey, black. He said, everybody you like is black. He said, they black, but they're not really black. Meaning, see, once they have, again, going back to stamping you with a certified stamp, then you come out of the colorism. And that's what done happened here with Oprah Winfrey. When Oprah first came on there, right? When she first came on, she was, kind of, rotund, kind of mammy type, and just, they loved that. Then, as you heard Paul Mooney say, shaved down and got herself looking a certain way, and then all of a sudden now, she a threat. But the whole thing is her whole show was always seemed to be catering to a certain demographic and ethnicity of people. And because she became this iconic black woman, that breeded into a lot of black women that were looking up to her to be the same way, right? And so that went on for, long periods of time. It was a lot of damage can be done. It's kind of like, how they say Bill Cosby was called Mr. The Huxtable, right? And a huckster is one who was a seller, a peddler, right? Well, basically, she became a female, but she didn't really go out here and actually peddle products. But if she did stamp her name on it, it validated. It's kind of like saying when Barack Obama was calling himself going to run, he came on the Oprah show and he was saying, well, because of that, he brought her to their homes and you love her and you'll love him. But again, same thing. Just like when she had that conversation with Barbara Walters and sat down and said, Oprah, did you ever want it to be white? She had to catch herself. Yeah. Sure? I done played it on here already, so you didn't see it. I would have played it, but I didn't do it. But anyway. So, based on that history of all the stuff that she had done, she was kind of the tool for white supremacy, for the white establishment. To now come and talk about, well, your white privilege, you of all people, you got $1 billion. How'd you get this $1 billion, Oprah, if it wasn't for that white privilege you're talking about? How dare you come back and bite the hand, right? And that's what he's basically saying, right? That's racist bullshit you're speaking, Oprah. Huh? We've been good to you. Look at the life you live. Look at your name, right? And so Oprah had lectured us, is what Ted Cruz said. And he quoted her saying this. He quoted, said, you still have your whiteness. That's what the term white privilege is. It means that whiteness still gives you an advantage no matter what other racist bullshit, right? So he's saying whiteness is the thing that is obvious and can be seen that differentiates you between black and white. And in that, there's a privilege, regardless to, let's say, because you know what they did. They always go find them somebody who they can try to use, right? They always go find somebody that's going to give them, look what he said, right? Now, I'm not sure if any of y'all know this former NFL linebacker. His name is Emmanuel Okoro, right? I think Ako, right? Acho, could be something like that, right? And so he has a YouTube series and he called it Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Now, the thing is, he is a black man, right? Now, black man, but in this country, when you say black person in this country, being the people who do not have, again, as some people say, you don't have a nationality, When you talk about African American or when you talk about Black American, that specifies those who come from those of the descendant BADOS. So when you say black in this country, that's who you are. And he's not. He is a Nigerian man, right? And he's had conversations with white folks about privilege, right? And in that, he was talking about how white people grow up without privilege or power. So he was co-signing. See, just because you're white, that don't necessarily mean you have privilege and power. And so that upset, they say Cruz and a lot of other people. They were like, you heard what he did on the show, and, white people don't all have power and they don't always have privilege. But that's why she said, right? White people. She said, white, your whiteness is the card. Not so much about what you personally have, the white skin in a system that identifies you. It's like teams with a uniform. You are seen through the eyes of the beholder and whatever psychology they hold. So a black cop can see a white person and automatically he's going to find a way to, alleviate the situation. When a white cop with a black person is threat first and then figure out if it can be de-escalated depending on how I'm feeling. Right? And so, quoting the quote and talking about this, said, well, there are white people who are not as powerful as the system of white people, the caste system that has been put in place. But they still, no matter where they are on the rung of the ladder of success, they still have their whiteness. This is what Winfrey said, right? Now, again, what she's speaking is facts. This is facts. This is not like this is a damn lie, but it's been coming out of her mouth and she's contradicting herself because, again, you've been upholding and wanted to be white and doing the life and right? But somehow you still hold on to who you are, right? But then you done fell out of grace with your people based on some things that done took place, right? And so Winfrey has said in there, she ended up breaking down what white privilege means. She said, you still have your whiteness. That's what the term white privilege is. It means that whiteness still gives you an advantage no matter what. Is that true or not is the question. It's so true to the fact that the video I just showed you with Ted Cruz, when he said what he said, did he not come out off the rip and said he is a Cuban American and that white supremacists don't like him? What if they don't like you? What is the part about you they don't like? You look to be, according to what we see on that screen, would you be considered to be a white man just on presence alone? Does that white skin in itself compare to a person of BADOS seeing you? If we're in a situation with the police and both of us talking about we need help, who are they going to come to first? Right? Who are they going to come to first? And so, right? So there's a privilege in that. And yet in your own mouth, you recognize that there is something that white people who hold that power and that ideology don't like you because you're Cuban, right? You even recognize the fact that you are Cuban, right? So that Okoye, matter of fact, he was raised in Dallas, right? His parents were African missionaries, and I think he was born in Nigeria. So the perspective that he was coming, that again, you might go and look at some of his stuff on YouTube. That's what he do. He, kind of, trying to, white people feel good. It's okay. That's your lick. That's what you do to get by. It's fine. Okay. But see, here's the thing: is Oprah Winfrey is BADOS. You know what I'm saying? She from Costco, Mississippi, right? Right? Everybody know her story. She from Mississippi, right? And so she's BADOS. No matter how we feel about her, all that stuff, right? She's still family. She just somebody you might not be fucking with, but she's still family. She come out of the cloth. She called it the blood. What she said is what I'm standing on. The part about her saying about what she said, even he knows that's a fact, right? And when they talk about white privilege, and then, again, what white privilege is white skin privilege, right? That's the card, your appearance. Why you think you have people with the cake soap and all this stuff and trying to whiten themselves, the Sammy Sosa and all? Where do you think they did all that? Because of, as I was talking about in Trinidad and Tobago, and how, you could do that and it didn't affect probably everybody. It was a certain segment, but not the majority, right? And so when you think about white skin, you're talking about societal privilege, right? The benefit that white people over non-white people have in our society, right? In other times, or I guess in other ways, you can look at it as social, political, economic circumstances, right? Those with roots of the European colonialism, right? From the Atlantic slave trade. You got those who came from the Second British Empire after 1783. And this is when they say that white privilege was developed. And in the broadly sought to protect white racial privilege, right? This was the point. It's about protecting the white way. It's the same thing when we talk about, again, the video that I made going back April 1st of 2014, talking about the white extinction. And all I did is tell about the stats and talk about how the birth rate and the decline of it. And that video goes back now, we're talking about over 6-7 years ago now. And I was the one that put that video that went around over 300,000 views, and they had to cut it off and say, no more, can't see that, right? And that's why this channel is the way it is, stuck in this corner, and it's been this way ever since, right? But again, I didn't say anything that killing. No, it was just, that was, again, news. That's what I do over here, right? So anyway, so when they study of white privilege in its broader fields of whiteness studies, right, and critical race theories, right, they know that this is a fact. They know the truth of what that is. So why would Ted Cruz say the statement that he stated, and otherwise he's trying to put on airs to try to show the rest of them he liked them? Let me check her, right? But he himself, you look at his background, who he is, right? Let me show this, right? Let me talk about this, right? Because see, that's what it is. Like I said, people come and they be from other places, and then they come over here and they think they can check us. Because somehow you mad at us because we holding some kind of steadfastness, as they said, we're monolithic people in our stance about how we looking at stuff. Now, he said his name is Ted, but his real name is Raphael Edward Cruz. Wait, where did Ted come in at? You know why Ted there? Ted there because Raphael trying to come across as a white man, right? Right? If you don't want to be Raphael, because Raphael makes the white man, when you say Raphael, he going to say Spanish or something. But as he said, right, Cuban. But now the thing is, he was born in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Yeah, he was born there, right? Now his mama's supposed to be from Wilmington, Delaware. Now, what they say about his mama is this, that she 3/4 Irish and 1/4 Italian descent. Now, wait a minute. 3/4 Irish and Italian descent and 1/4 Italian descent. And guess what? And even with both of her, she had to get in her lineage, her descent in this country. Those who've been avid watching the show, remember that again, I did that about how the Italians became white. The same thing, how the Irish became white. Because they did not have white privilege in the beginning when they first got here. They had to earn that. And guess who they had to earn that against? We, BADOS. You know what I'm saying? Being police, right? All that. Keep us in our place. Union, all that, right? They weren't considered white, but now that they done got their white privilege, now all of a sudden now, see, I got to show my whiteness because, again, he said he Cuban, meaning his daddy Cuban, his mama Irish and Italian. So guess what? He really like us. But because, like Oprah said about his white privileged skin, he gets to talk to us like he better than us. Because in the case of when they talk about black and that's why they got a category for them to check that box of being white. He got the white skin privilege over us until he gets around a real white person. Then he falls under lower rungs of whiteness. Right? So ain't that something? Somebody who ain't even born naturally here, he got the citizenship through his mama. His daddy went from Canada went to Cuba. Then they came here. Right? But he was already born in Canada, then he came here, lived here, and then he came in. Matter of fact, that whole situation go back to when he was trying to run for office, right? When he run, that came into question. And I think his father didn't even get citizenship till like 2005, right? So it was like, it was a question to his eligibility to being a president. And that was the whole thing, this lawsuit, and they were challenging the fact that Cruz was ineligible to become a U.S. citizen, right? And so it was in, I think, February 2016, the Illinois Board of Elections ruled Cruz favor, stating the candidate is a natural-born citizen by virtue of being born in Canada, to his mother, who was a U.S. citizen at the time of his birth. See, they had to use his mama to get him in to be legitimized. And here we is, been here, built this place, and you telling us about what white privilege ain't it. Huh? See? You didn't have privilege to come in and say that to us, talk to us like that. See? But they say that ain't real. That is utter racist bullshit. No, that's the game. That's just what it is. Whether you want to accept or say it or not, that's just what it is, right? It's so real. It's so real that I'm going to blow your head on this one. I want you to see this one here, man. You don't believe this. It's so real that you say white privilege is not real. That, let me show you something. Do we got that? Yeah, we got that. So check this out. I'm going to do the break and come right back. Yeah, do the second break. Yeah, do the second break. All right, we black, right? You see on your screen there, it says courtroom shocked after black teen requested to be tried as a white man. You know I'm going to say that again. Courtroom shocked after black teen requested to be tried as a white man. But they say ain't no white skin privilege. There is no white privilege. Huh? Yeah, I ain't that boy. I'm coming with it, ain't it? Right? So anyway, in Tampa, Florida, right? A 19-year-old black teenager requested he should be tried as a white teenager, or at least a white man, to give him a chance inside the courtroom. Let me say that again. A 19-year-old black teenager requested to be tried as a white teenager, or at least a white man, to give him a chance inside the courtroom. You know what the young brother name is? That young brother named Sean Jackson. Now, again, he's being charged on a gun charge, and they wanted him to plead, but he refused to plead before the judge and the jury unless they had accept his condition. Huh? This 19-year-old brother, Sean Jackson, he wanted to be tried as a white teenager. They said if they can't give him that, at least try him as a white man. But they say ain't no white privilege. 19-year-old boy right there, young man. I'll tell you another boy. 19-year-old young man right there. 19-year-old young man saying there's two systems in this country, right? There's a black system and there's a white system, right? And that, again, those who have been watching the last few shows when we talked about qualified immunity, we talked about the Dred Scott decision, right? Now, wait a minute. What he understand? What he know? Why he doing this? Did he understand something? Okay. And so he said, if you can't give him that, he said at least he should be tried as a white man who has a similar record as him. So he's saying, let's find a white man who had the same kind of record I got, and then I want to be like the privilege of this white man so that you can adjudicate me based on like him. What? Oh boy, don't talk about, you know what it is, right? And so as I said, he wanted to get a white man whose record is similar to his. Mr. Jackson believes that he was going to be thrown in jail simply because of his color. See, 19 years old, which means he was been here since 2001, has recognized that in the court system of America, that a black man is going to go to jail more because of his color of his skin, and that somehow if you can make him to be a white person, he could probably fare better in the system, and maybe he probably get a much lesser for the situation. And so what they said he did is when he came to court is he brought a bunch of historic cases that were similar to his. People who had the same record. He pointed out that white persons were given probation, house arrest, community service, while he said black boys of the same age with the same kind of crime were given harsh sentence and thrown to jail. That boy's smart there, man. Huh? That boy's smart, ain't he? This boy's actually doing something that, again, when we talked about the other day about the Dred Scott case and how that case of 1857 is still, which I'm going to talk about after this, I'm going to show y'all something added to that. So he was saying that this data that he's under collected, all this data that he got as he was talking, as I'm telling you, that he brought to court, he said if he was to go into trial as a black man, he know definitely he's going to jail. Based on his comparative, right? He's doing like, they do a house like comparative in the house to find out what the price is for a particular house on the block. He's doing a comparative study, and based on his comparative study says that if I go on with the same kind of case, same kind of background, I'm going to jail. But if these white folks that I got here, none of them didn't go to jail. As he said, probation, house arrest, community service, right? And so I would like for the judge, now he requested the judge and the jury, he wants them to study these past cases that he got. This boy coming with the case, He wants you to study these cases, and he says, release that no matter how I plead, I'm going to be found guilty. He said, now when you look at these comparatives that I'm giving you, and you see, and you're going to, my record of this, and this is what I've done, again with my background, I'm going to jail. But these white folks, these white privileged people, are not going to jail. So I'm going to be found guilty, given a sentence that is considered fit for a black man by this justice system. I would like to plead as a white boy, a white man, to be tried as such. What? Genius. 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 Now, again, in his background, according to they said that he only got is a misdemeanor charge before he was arrested. He only had a misdemeanor charge. But he didn't know. It's a gun charge. He already got a misdemeanor. Comparative studies to show that if he's going to jail. So he's doing his own defense. Kind of like he's doing pro se. He's bringing and doing my own business, right? And guess what? The court has yet to announce whether it is possible for Jackson to be tried as a white person. So they said the courtroom was shocked that he would say that. Why are white people so shocked that a young black man who must be born at least in 2000 or 2001 come into a courtroom and saying he would like to be tried as a white person, as if he has not come to a understanding, a realization that white people got a privilege in this land that a black person don't have. As we did the Dred Scott case, the Dred Scott, according to what you said, but what you end up doing, adjudicating, was entirely different. And ever since that day forth, this has been the problem, has it not? And so he said these previous court cases, convictions of similar charges to the one he's facing, he was showing how race has been playing a big role in the Florida courtrooms. Now, the other day, I just wrote you talking about how you can't have gun and all that stuff in Florida, right? That young man here is putting the courts to the test, right? So you have to say, damn, boy, that's one smart young brother right there, Sean Jackson, man, huh? That's BADOS, boy. That boy came up with one. He came up with him something. Say, man, hold on. But I was like, wait a minute. Now you get, Mr. Blows Your Mind. Again, as I tell you, I went and looked around. I was like, well, where did young brother get that idea from, huh? That young brother seen something somewhere and had to. He only born 19 years ago, 2001. So I was like, okay. So I went back into the archives and I found something. Now I want y'all to see this. You ready to check this out? Now pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention.
Following all week, Hannah Stevenson, the 16-year-old girl from Detroit, accused of stabbing a classmate to death with a screwdriver last month. At her arraignment this afternoon, Hannah received the harshest possible sentencing from the judge. She will be tried as a black adult.
Due to the extreme and violent nature of this crime, this court finds it fitting to try the defendant as an African American. Henceforth, you will be referred to for the jury by the name Wandell Brown.
Once the trial begins next week, all courtroom images of Hannah will depict her as a 300-pound muscular black man, and jury members will be instructed to imagine her as such.
We're going to do our best to make sure that Hannah is treated with the sympathy and sensitivity that she, as a photogenic white girl, deserves.
This is America. Nobody deserves to be treated as a black man.
Now that Hannah has been ruled black, the court has instructed local media to assume she's guilty, and the police have retroactively charged her with assaulting her arresting officer. Hannah's 24 character witnesses have been replaced by a single crack addict who goes by the name of Skaggs. Hannah's parents are, of course, planning to appeal the ruling, saying that their daughter should at most be tried as a black celebrity or a stunningly beautiful Filipino lady. Every time I hear a story like that, it makes me so glad I'm exempt from the
We are black, right? So, what? White girl got charged being a Negro? Did that blow your mind? Did it blow your mind? Did that really blow your mind? Do you need to see that again? Maybe you didn't see that right? Maybe you didn't see that right. Let me go ahead. Let me get a remix. Let's get a remix on that. One more again. Get that one more again. Give another shot of that, right? Ready? Check this out. One more again.
following all week. Hannah Stevenson, the 16-year-old girl from Detroit, accused of stabbing a classmate to death with a screwdriver last month. At her arraignment this afternoon, Hannah received the harshest possible sentencing from the judge. She will be tried as a black adult.
Due to the extreme and violent nature of this crime, this court finds it fitting to try the defendant as an African American. Henceforth, you will be referred to for the jury by the name Wandell Brown.
Once the trial begins next week, all courtroom images of Hannah will depict her as a 300-pound muscular black man, and jury members will be instructed to imagine her as such.
We're going to do our best to make sure that Hannah is treated with the sympathy and sensitivity that she, as a photogenic white girl, deserves.
This is America. Nobody deserves to be treated as a black man.
Now that Hannah has been ruled black, the court has instructed local media to assume she's guilty, and the police have retroactively charged her with assaulting her arresting officer. Hannah's 24 character witnesses have been replaced by a single crack addict who goes by the name of Skaggs. Hannah's parents are, of course, planning to appeal the ruling, saying that their daughter should at most be tried as a black celebrity or a stunningly beautiful Filipino lady. Every time I hear a story like that, it makes me so glad I'm exempt.
So, that ain't real. You know damn well that ain't real, but boy, it almost felt real, didn't it? That ain't real. But in there is some truth in that, right? And guess what? I'm pretty sure young brother done seen that, right? So he came up with an ingenious idea that he gonna put it to the damn court. Now that was the article, and the video of that short clip of that is actually from the video that's out there, but it's a group that make these kind of satire kind of videos, right? But that had been circulating out there. So this young brother must have done seen that, or somebody told him, and he's putting it to the test. And the reason for that is, when you really think about it, as Ted Cruz tried to say that what Oprah said was wrong and not right, how is it that the court didn't strike that down right off the bat when he said it? It's because, again, as I did the other show the other day, talking about Dred Scott, and how this is two systems based on what took place in the Dred Scott decision. So we're going to pay attention to that case. We're going to see what's going to manifest. Because is that an option? Can you say, I like to, like going into your, whatever restaurant and looking at the menu and having a choice to pick of what your selection is. Can you as a black person say, I like to take the white selection? Because it's funny how biologically people can be mixed and be half white and half black, but somehow you could throw them in that category. But ain't no such thing as a half white person. You have to be full-fledged or consider, or 16th, some kind of 16th of white. Well, when it comes to a plea on this law, and knowing that, again, I got a bad chance rolling the dice, I know I got a bad, I'm gonna hit them snake eyes every time on this. But if I get the option to get with you, I got a better shot at this. What does that really say, Ted Cruz? Or anybody else who might be listening? What does that tell you? That's a real case with the brother, Sean Jackson. That was hypothetical and a satire with the white girl. See? Playing the part and living the part. But yet we always making shit up. Ain't that something, huh? We make that up so much. Huh? We make this up so much. Right? That it's shit like this, right? It's stuff like this that, again, earlier talking about the game being rigged, right? When the game is rigged, and yet people won't admit that the game is rigged, and that anytime we sit here and we talking, that it's got to be some kind of racist bullshit, other than the fact that admitting the fact that the game has always been rigged, and we've been always playing in a rigged ass game, and it's been rigged, but you're not going to admit to the riggedness to the game, right? So let's just look at this as something else that just came up. So let me show you this, and I'll be right back. Check this out.
Now, as the debate over police reform grows, a little-known law came to light, and it even made its way to the Supreme Court to be challenged. I'm talking about qualified immunity. It protects police officers, judges, and any government official from being sued in civil court when they make a decision while on the job. But when you start talking about its implications, that's when the waters get a little murky.
There should be clear, cut, and dry instructions, rules, rights. Everything should be very clear, cut, and dry, not subjective, not easily manipulated.
Tanya Faison, the founder of Black Lives Matter Sacramento, says that's her problem with qualified immunity. Sacramento attorney Mark Reichel agrees. He says the level of protection qualified immunity gives any and every government official is just too much.
There has to be a case that says you can't do that because that deprives them of their rights. So if they can't find that, they may not be able to sue under qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity is largely supported by conservatives and law enforcement. Timothy Davis with the Sacramento Police Officers Association says it's for good reason.
As long as their actions aren't extremely egregious, and then they lose their qualified immunity. If an officer violates somebody's constitutional rights, then they don't get the qualified immunity. So you have to be acting appropriately to get the benefit of qualified immunity.
Let's take a look at one of the court cases that the Supreme Court decided not to hear. In West versus Winfield, the plaintiff gave SWAT permission to go inside of her home to serve a warrant. Once inside, court documents say the officers damaged the plaintiff's home so much so that she couldn't live in it for 2 months. But when the officers were sued in civil court, because this isn't a criminal situation, the court said that the officers had qualified immunity and West was left picking up the pieces both literally and financially. Attorney Mark Reichel says there's another layer of benefit for officers.
If you sue, you have to prove that there's a case on point in your jurisdiction of an appellate court, which is supervising all, not just a trial court decision, but a higher level appellate court that has said those exact facts are illegal to do to someone.
Faison says boundaries in every facet of policing would be a step towards real justice.
We really need objective language in everything that has to do with police, especially when they're killing us.
Now that the Supreme Court has decided not to hear any of those cases on qualified immunity, the issue falls on Congress. The House of Representatives has a bill that would end it altogether while addressing police reform, and so does the Senate. Senate leaders say the House of Representatives version that ends qualified immunity is a non-starter.
All right, so we are black, right? So Supreme Court invented qualified immunity. Now a judge blistering opinion shows why it must go. You know I'm going to say that again. Supreme Court invented qualified immunity. Now a judge blistering opinion shows why it must go, right? So there was a black judge who is writing his opinion as to, this qualified immunity. Qualified immunity. Again, you've been watching the last couple shows. We touched on this qualified immunity, right? I broke it down, told you some things, but another article has come out on it. And it was a United States district judge named Carlton Reeves, right? And says it couldn't do justice for the plaintiff in his court who has sued over police abuse. It's because why the Supreme Court won't let him. So Reeves issued an opinion that dutifully followed the law, blistered the justice for the all but insurmountable barriers that have constructed to shield police officers from being held to account. Reeves, a Barack Obama nominee who sits in Jackson, Mississippi, and is the second black federal judge in the history of the state, produced one of the most powerful pieces of legal writing I have encountered. His opinion is a 72-page, directed at the Supreme Court, arguing that it must do away with the doctrine of qualified immunity for law enforcement officials. Reed begins with the larger context. Clarence Jamison wasn't jaywalking, his notes. That was Michael Brown, shot by police in Ferguson, Missouri. He wasn't outside playing with a toy gun. Footnote, that was 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Shot in a park by a Cleveland police officer. He wasn't suspected of selling loose, untaxed cigarettes. Footnote, that was Eric Gardner. The Staten Island man who died after an officer put him in a chokehold. And on for 19 excruciating footnotes. George Floyd, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, until we get to Jamison's non-offense. He didn't make an improper lane change. He didn't have a broken taillight. He wasn't driving over the speed limit. He wasn't driving under the speed limit. No, Clarence Jamison was a black man driving a Mercedes convertible. In 2013, the Plantagenet, Mississippi, an hour south of Philadelphia, Mississippi, where Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Chaney were killed in 1964. Because his temporary tag, he had just purchased a car, was allegedly folded over. Okay, right. And so this judge here decided that he wanted to write about this because why? The game rigged, right? The game rigged. But nobody wants to admit that the game got rigged. Now, according to, like, again, remember when, well, yesterday's show, remember when I talked about the qualified immunity, and I told you how they say you got to have, in order to not allow the police officers to get a, get away with using it, the case has to be identical. As you heard in the video, he said, not just have to be identical, it has to be in your own jurisdiction. Similarity. You can't be the first case of that happened to you, otherwise they get to use it. So it's kind of funny when you think about this, when you think about this qualified immunity. You know that they say that this qualified immunity was created because why? It was about the KKK, right? When they say about the KKK, that it was to stop the KKK. And so legislators about going after the KKK so they wouldn't be able to sue them. So what ended up happening is what happened. A lot of people will say, just like there's some stories on the broke that they're saying the people in the police department and about these executioners and things like that are, part of this, as Ted Cruz said, white supremacist groups, right? So now, if they officers and they doing the things that they doing and they be able to hide with that, so then that's like Nancy Pelosi said that you give them a license to kill with impunity. And guess who allowed that to happen? The Supreme Court. Right? So it's like a lot of the things that we have dealt with has come from the Supreme Court that has put us at this disadvantage. So, some people are saying this is why that a lot of people be like they want to get Donald Trump out of the office because they say he's been stacking the deck in these, court districts with judges that's got these, 40-year seats and so forth. That means that they're going to still be able to have the judicial power, even though if they start to be fall from number one into other numbers of group, that they're still be able to wield the power that is more of a control. See, you have a judicial power, executive power, and then you have the judicial. Did I say that right? Judicial, executive, and legislative power, right? Now, accordingly, judicial power seems like you can't trump it. Other than you're going to go back to Congress and then find some kind of way that changes the interpretation. But what originally was done by the Supreme Court, does that ever go away? Can you repeal that? Right? Is that possible? Or is that just a figure of our imagination? Well, check this out. Check this out. Let me show again. So again, I'm getting people today who you would think that they know what the game is. They part of the game. So if they part of the game, then they know what the game is. So go back over there. No, go back there. All right. So I'm going to show y'all this. Right? We're going to get into this. And it should be a show for today, right? I want you to hear closely what this individual here finna say. Okay? We're going to go here. And I'll be right back after that. Check this out.
Let's turn now to Mike B., former governor of Arkansas, now running for president on the Republican side. Governor, you just heard Jim Obergefell. What's your response?
I'm deeply moved by his comments, and I understand his personal passions. But I would warn people that what we have seen this week is something that changes not so much the product, but the process of how we govern. We've always been a nation of law. We're now a nation of men. What happened this week, is so brilliantly pointed out by Justice Scalia, is that this was not done through the legislative process. This was done through a court edict of 5 unelected lawyers, a part of a committee who decided that they knew better than the legislators who actually get to make law, that they know better than the people who voted in over 30 states to affirm traditional marriage. And George, this case wasn't so much about a matter of marriage equality. It was marriage redefinition. And I think people have to say, if you're going to have a new celebration that we're not going to discriminate, May I ask, are we going to now discriminate against people of conscience, people of faith, who may disagree with this ruling? Are they going to be forced either out of business, like the florists, the caterers, the photographers, like the CEO of Mozilla, who was run out of his job because of a personal contribution to support a proposition in California that actually won on the ballot? Are we going to trade one level of what's called discrimination for a new level of discrimination against people of faith?
So what exactly are you calling on people to do right now? You say resist and reject this judicial tyranny. Spell out exactly what that means.
George, judicial tyranny is when we believe that the courts have a right to pass the process of law. And we've really seen it this week in two cases. In both the Obamacare case, which Justice Scalia said we should call it SCOTUS care because they have rescued it twice, ex cathedra to the law, and then in the same-sex marriage.
So are you calling for civil disobedience?
I don't think a lot of pastors and Christian schools are going to have a choice. They either are going to follow God, their conscience, and what they truly believe is what the Scripture teaches them, or they will follow civil law. They will go the path of Dr. Martin Luther King, who in his brilliant essay, The Letters from a Birmingham Jail, reminded us, based on what St. Augustine said, that just law is no law at all. And
Let's turn now to Mike Huckabee.
All right, so we are back, right? Huckabee says Dred Scott steal law of land. Let me say that again. Huckabee says Dred Scott steal law of land. Right? What are you talking about, Mr. Blows Your Minds? Well, I had to go ahead and come back and give you this one because, you got to hear from the words of those judges. And you see Mike Huckabee, who is still here to this day, still part of the establishment, right? Part of the legislation power to this day. And if he says that, what does he mean? What does he mean that Dred Scott? You heard him in there, they were talking about gay marriage, but he was saying that the Dred Scott case, right? The Dred Scott case, that set the precedents. That is where the game is at, y'all. So let me give you the so-called majority opinion that was done by that Justice Taney, right? He said, the question before us is whether the class of persons described in the plea and abatement compose a portion of this people and are constituent members or constitutes members of the sovereignty. We think they are not, and that they are not included and were not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, and can therefore claim none of the rights and privilege which that instrument provides for and secures to citizens of the United States. On the contrary, they were at the time considered as a subordinate and inferior class of beings who had been subjugated by the dominant race, whether emancipated or not, yet remained subject to their authority and had no rights or privilege but such as those who held the power and the government might choose to grant them. The language of the Declaration of Independence is equally inclusive. It begins by declaring that when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal stations to which the laws of nature and nature God entitled them, A decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. It then proceeds to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The general words above quoted were seen to embrace the whole human family, and if they were used in a similar instrument at this day, would be so understood. But it is too clear for dispute that the enslaved African race were not intended to be included, and formed no part of the people who framed and adopted this declaration. For if the language as understood in that day would embrace them, the conduct of this distinguished man who framed the Declaration of Independence would have been utterly and flagrantly consistent with the principles they asserted, and instead of the sympathy of mankind to which they competently appealed, they would have deserved and received universal rebuke and reparations. Upon these considerations, it is the opinion of the court that the act of Congress which prohibits a citizen from holding and owning property of this kind in the territories of the United States, north of the line therein mentioned, is not warranted by the Constitution, and is therefore void, and that neither Dred Scott himself nor any of his family were made free by being carried into the territories, even if they had been carried there by their owner with the intentions of becoming a permanent resident. Upon the whole, therefore, it is the judgment of this court that it appears by the record before us that the plaintiff is in error, is not a citizen of Missouri in the sense in which that word is used in the Constitution. Okay? All right? So what have you been battling this whole time, right? What have we been battling this whole time? Why is it white privilege? Why is it a 19-year-old boy, young man, a 19-year-old young man wants to feel like that if he goes to court that he needs to get white privilege? What is it that a billionaire who got all this money that still says that there's something that's different, even though I got all this money, that there's still a privilege about your skin compared to me, even when I got $1 billion? What is it? Does it have anything to do with what was said as a proceeding going back then? Yes, they said to come back and then that we abolished it and included you in an amendment. But when those words were said and became what it was, separate but equal, that they came with later down to later. Is this the veil? Is this behind the curtain that they hide behind? Making you think that somehow you're inclusive, but when really you're not. So the question becomes, once something is substantiated, just like we just seen with the qualified immunity that was set by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court makes a mistake. So you go to Congress to make an amendment to try to rewrite the interpretation? Why doesn't just be abolished the original? Why not repeal the original and make it non-void? Or once it's written, it's set in stone. So as you see on your screen there, Mike Huckabee says Dred Scott still law of the land. It ain't changed. And if anything you won't get changed, that's where your fight is at. I didn't say it. It's right in your face. So study it, learn it, figure it out. Is he right? Is he wrong? You tell me. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming over here, clicking on the video. This has been another Black Minds News Report on this Friday, 8/7/2020. And, Take it for what you want it, right? They say there is no they say the white privilege. That's all we ever seen. That's all we ever known, right? Somehow we always been in this so-called gray area. But everybody say, no, you guys are ego. It says all. Question becomes, if you wrote all from the beginning, but Judge Taney said the framers that wrote this didn't talk about you. You or anything as a descendant of an African and so forth. Some people who were part of the more scientific will tell you it was a treaty from the Moroccans and that's why they were citizens and we're not. Well, then since you know all that, and a lot of people say that because you have your nationality and all that, and when shit hit the fan, is that gonna work? You think that gonna work? Or is it because the rising spirit and tide of blackness is going to figure out where you hit it? Where's Waldo? You done figured out where Waldo's at. But what happens when you really go to challenge it? Is that where is there enough is enough? You tell me. I'm just here to present the news that's out there. We all have our own interpretations and opinions about things. I don't know it all. I'm still a student, a master student, learning as you go on. Don't know it all. I'm not going to live long enough to know it all. But don't mean that, several more lifetimes, I'll know more than I did this time. So, it's been another Black Minds News production. Again, when you see your brother, greet your brother. What's good, brother? What's good, brother? When you see your sister, what's good, sister? What's good, brother? If you can't do that much, at least give that universal nod. You know how we do. We live in a day, crossroads. Many people are seeking for our demise. It's coming that we become my brother's keepers, my sister keeper, my brothers and family keepers. Because everybody seems to have their agenda for themselves, regardless of what we've been through. Get over it. Now that we're trying to figure out how to be self-sufficient and substantiate ourselves and use all the remedies that it said we are unable to use, a lot of people are going to be upset. A lot of people will ruffle their feathers. All we're trying to do is just live. We're trying to survive. But at what cost? Again, this is the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. And to the next show, y'all. To the next show.